Okay. So, I put together a PowerPoint, but when I was practicing it, it really didn't work because what I really need is to use my document camera to show you things. So, what does it, oh, I can't, oh my goodness. I don't know if I could use my document camera. Okay. Yes. Okay. Man, it's so different when you're recording. You can't do other things on the desktop. So first of all, I'm going to use my document camera to give you my introduction here and my contact information. This webinar is how to screen for dyslexia. So how great would it be if you could know in 1 hour if a student has those characteristics of dyslexia? That's what we have to call it, characteristics. And so I'm Dr. Marianne Cintron. I've been an educator for 21 years, and I've been a classroom teacher for 10. I love to do public speaking, give free webinars, and talk to school districts. So if there's anything that I share with you today that you think might be helpful for your school, please let me know. Because I didn't learn about dyslexia until I was earning my second master's. And, I never really got too much support with the grading of stuff. And I was very fortunate that there was a peer that I was able to ask my questions of, because assessing can be pretty tricky. So I want you to meet my family. My husband and I have been married for 31 years. We have 3 adult children, and my daughter Laura just got married last November and just celebrated her anniversary. And they got married at the beautiful, we have a winery in Temecula. Deborah knows about the winery there, Leoness Winery. And then, so they're a blended family. So I have a grandson. And then my 2 sons, Richie is 29 and Randy's 41. And I have a grandpuppy. So I think this is a great way for couples to start their families. So all I have to do is buy bones, not clothes yet. So I want to welcome you. And then today's agenda, I put it in the chat if you want to print it out. I'm going to talk about the value of the screens first of all, and the purpose. So the value of this screen is it only takes you an hour. And I can do a cognitive test, a phonological awareness test, and an academic test, and know very quickly if a student would qualify would have those eligibility requirements, which is not the psychological test. And I do have a disclaimer that says this is an informal educational assessment done for the purpose of planning the course of tutoring for a student. It's not intended to provide any kind of clinical legal diagnosis. So if a parent needs that legal diagnosis of any learning disability, I really urge them to talk to a psychologist, a neurologist, school psychologist, developmental, somebody on my board gave me this because I just want to have that disclaimer that this is to get a student started with some intervention. I've had parents come to me and say, the schools are just dragging their feet, or the schools say, my child doesn't have dyslexia. I don't want to fight it. I just want to start the intervention. So that's the reason I'll assess. I have assessed because somebody got their child, they knew their child was dyslexic, but he qualified under speech. And there's specific learning, there's intervention with Orton Gillingham that needs to be done. So this parent needed advocacy, but also wanted an assessment to compare to the school's assessment. And it's so funny how some of the school's assessments don't even say dyslexia, and they base it all on one little factor. So when I could show the cognitive and the discrepancy of the academic reading and the phonological deficits, we got the child 5 hours a week. And that little guy was going into 2nd grade. He didn't even know his letter names and sounds. And now in the 3rd grade, he's reading at a 4th grade level and comprehending at a 5th grade level. So that was done with the screen. And the school had already done an official assessment for him. And then I've had adults come to me, they want to screen because they want to bring it to their boss to say, this is the wrong position for me. I have dyslexia. Can you put me in a position where I'm not reading so much? Or can you put me in I've had a parent come to me recently who's going back to grad school, and the previous school who had her records of being dyslexic, didn't have her records anymore. So she's coming to me for a screen that she can bring to the grad school, because once a professor sees that you've been screened for dyslexia, they're going to give those accommodations, basically, which means they're going to give you more time on your college tests. So what I use, and so I want to show you this nice graph. I just love it. We're looking for students that have an average IQ here. And I want to show you that one of the printouts I sent you says that the cognitive score should be 110. Look at, that would be way over here. I rarely get students that are up here. But this little boy that I just told you about, he was here. So that's really a true number. And then they want the academic score to be 35-point difference. But what's interesting is you might have very low reading and high comprehension that makes that student look average. So the schools don't take a look at them. So this is our goal. And when I screen the second language learners, I let the parents know I'm looking for the score here. If the score isn't here, I'm not going to continue with the screen, because I have a grant to help kids with dyslexia. So I can't qualify them for that grant, but I would still like to give them help. And I'll show you if we have time at the end. So many of them are scoring down here because they need help with their vocabulary development. So what I use are I'll show you the booklets. I use the Peabody Picture Vocabulary. And as a disclaimer, there are more current books, but I am a nonprofit and I am just doing a screen. So I haven't invested the money in the updates. And then this is the GORT. They have a GORT 5 now. So it's on my bucket list if I get a sponsor that wants to pay for me to get the upgraded curriculum. And then you grade them in this book and you grade them in this book. And I'm going to show you what all that is about, what it all looks like. So first I'm going to have you do something with me. I'm going to show you, okay, so if you didn't get your, did anybody print out the papers I sent you? So if you want to just take notes on the side, that might be the best. So you always want to put the student's name. You want to put their address, the city, the school, if you can, and get their zip code. I have something where I send cards to the kids. So I'd like to send them a card and I'll tell them, I need your address so I can send you a card. And then get their teacher's name, because when I'm working with second language learners from one district, it's interesting, at one school, a lot of them have the same teacher. So there might be something down the road where I'll be able to talk to them about their students. So what we start off first with, there's a paper here that, well, I just want to show you the real test without it filled out. Okay, so this could be very scary looking, right? What we're looking for is a raw score. So you want to also put today's testing day. And I'm just giving you a sample of a student. I'm saying he's 10 years old. So you put his birthday. And if you know how to figure the dates out, you have to subtract 30 days or you have to subtract 12 months, that kind of a thing. So you could subtract. So we start with we have a 10-year-old. So what you have to do is go to this Peabody test is so easy to use. You go where the child is. So here's ages 6 and 7, age 8 and 9, age 10. So you always want to start where the student's age is. And I always circle that first. I circle start, and you could also write basal. Sometimes you have to, okay, so the goal is to have 0 or 1 errors to go forward. If a student has more than 1 error, you have to back it up and back it up. And what this test is a bunch of pictures without vocabulary, and I use my document camera. I just go like this, and I can click this, and see how easy that is? They can see the pictures with my document camera, and then they just have to say, like if I say flamingo, is it picture 1, 2, 3, or 4? And then they'll say 2, and then that's how that goes. And then you just flip the pages, and it's very easy to administer. So let me flip this back here. So I'm just pretending that this student had 1 wrong. So I'm going to move to the next test, which is starts at number 97. So what happens is a student has to cap out at 8 errors. When they have 8 errors, we call that the ceiling. So they may have 9, 10, or 11 errors. You always want to test it all the way to the end. I circle that number because it's easy to forget. That's your total items. And so as I'm grading this, the student's going to say the number of the picture, and I'm going to write whatever picture he or she is saying. So when they say the wrong picture, I'm going to put, for example, if the student said those wrong numbers, that's when I put a slash through error. So when the student goes through all of them, 3 errors. So then I'm going to go to the next one, and you're just going to show the pictures, and you don't say anything. How you read this is, I would say, well, let me show you. It's a different thing to know how to give the test versus how to score it. So if I were to tell you cactus, you don't have to say which one is the cactus. You just say cactus. Tambourine, pelican, or flamingo. You just say the one word, and you're not saying good job or you got it wrong. You're not explaining. And you let them know, I'm not giving you any feedback. It saves a lot of time if you just keep moving on. I mean, I have been known to say, good job, or you're doing good, don't worry, but typically you want to go ahead and move fast. So let's look at this last column. Set 11 is where I'm going to have this student max out. So I'm going to pretend he or she said all these correctly. Yay, you're doing, oops. He said that wrong. She said that wrong. She said that wrong. And it's natural to get them wrong as you move on, because they are meant to get harder and harder. But this is pretty early for a student. So I'm going to cap him out at 8. And again, you count the errors. So then what you do when you have the cap, the ceiling, you're going to go to this page. And this is all in the printout. If you take the time to print it out, the handout I sent you. So what you're going to do is transfer all these scores to the front here. So what that looks like is test 8, which was the basal, had 1 error. Test 2 had 3 errors. Test 9 had 3. Test 10 had 6 errors. Test 11 had 8 errors. I was going to have you fill this out with me, but since you didn't print it out, I'll go through and just show you what I do. So if you remember, I recommended that you circle your last number, and that's what you're going to put here as your ceiling item. Then you're going to count how many errors were made, because all this counts as free points. So the student had 18 errors. You put that in here. So you have a total of 114, and that's considered a raw score. What happens is you transfer that to this cover. So this is the front page. It's so pretty and purple. You want to put the raw score right there. Then you want to determine what's the standard score in all these other rankings. So that's what I'm going to show you now. So I gave you this very specific printout for you to follow. So then I go into this booklet and I have to look for the age of the student. So he's 10 years and 0 months. So here's 10, 0, right? So he had a raw score of 114. So I'm going to get my ruler or my paper and I'm going to look for 114. He's going to be way over here. Here's 114. And then I put my ruler here and I want to be sure I'm in column A for the pre-test. B is going to be for the post-test, okay? So 114 is a standard score of 89. So do you remember what that requirement said? 110? That's really far from that, right? So you put 89 here. And just so you know, that's going to be way down here. This score sheet says standard, percentile, norm curve, stanine, and score ranges. So I like to go right here and make a line. And I'll show the parent, if I don't continue with assessing, I'll let them know where they are. So this little student really needs help developing their vocabulary. But anyway, so beyond that, there's other scores we want to get, which are very easy to find. In the back, there's this page that has all these numbers. And so what this wants now is the standard score to guide us. So the standard score was 89. It's not in this column. It's way over here. So that gives me my percentile is 23. And that's what I write here. Next, I have my norm equivalent, which is 35. I have a stanine, which is 4. And then I go to the back, which is B, but on here, this lets me know the age equivalent. So now I'm going back to the raw score. So you have to pay attention. Are they looking for the raw score or the standard score? So my raw score again was 114. And let's see where we find 114. Again, I'm on A because B will have 1 point difference. And you want to be careful with that. So here's my ruler. 114, 8 years, 8 months. So this little boy or person, student, is reading as an 8-year-old, and he's 10 years old, okay? So this one doesn't talk about grade equivalent, but the GORT will. So what I have told parents in the past, because I was a classroom teacher for 10 years and a special ed teacher for 8. And I would say that the stanine, the general student that has no learning challenges is at least a 5. So that's like an average. So this just shows the students a little below that. But when you look at that curve, this curve is very different because we want this and we have this. So imagine this line being matched up. So here, this student would be, well, right here, 90, he's in the yellow range here, okay? All right, so that's the PPVT. The second test I want to show you is the GORT. Let me put this aside right here. Now I have the gray oral reading on my computer. This is a big old happy face. And this is It's little stories that the student can read, and you ask them questions on the back. And there's more stories. So I'm not going to show you how to do this test. They actually have YouTubes that show you how to administer the test, but I'm going to show you how to score because there's never enough support on how to score these tests. What I first do, I want to share with you, my phonological screen is this. I have 24 nonsense words, and I just let the students see if they can say these words. For example, if they know phonics, they'll sound them out. Bear, blut, zame, vust, Raoul or Rawl, Sare, Nern, came, any, vape, plap, boy, bake, plock, calf, that could actually be cave, home, suit, molt. This is louve, fall, kelp, flum, rabe, new. Why I like this is a lot of times dyslexic children will put the L in the wrong place. So they might say clap and not see kelp. And so you just mark what I have two papers. One I'm showing them, and then the other one I'm grading so they're not seeing it. And then I give a little percentile. This is what the principal liked to see on the phonological screen. And usually the second language learners were in the 20, 30 percentile, so low. And then I also have them, so I have this nonsense words for second through fourth grade. And then I have, this is fifth grade and higher. And this is fourth grade, second to fourth grade. And then I have sentences where I have the students write, I repeat the sentence 2 or 3 times. If they're really low, I'll just say some of the words. But it's interesting because even though dyslexic kids can memorize, these are going to be unfamiliar words. So they're not going to be able to, unless they can sound them out. So, and that's in the handout that I mailed you. If a student scores pretty high in this, that'll give me a little indication that I can score a little bit higher. So let me find I'm going to start a little higher is what I mean. So I don't want to, if a student's scoring pretty well with the phonological awareness, I'm not going to start at test 1. I'm not even going to start at test 2. But if I start at test 4, that means this will all be free if they do well here. So the trick is they have to be timed when you test them. So I always put the students, copy the information from the picture vocabulary, indicate that it's a pre-test. And this has a lot of different things we're going to fill out. So that's what I'm going to show you right now. So I'm going to move to test, I'm going to start at test 4. So again, this is on my computer. I'm not going to show them. I just upload it, with this COVID and being online, it's so easy to just upload it and enlarge it on my screen. So you set your timer and you record how long it takes the student to finish. And then you're also, and here's my sample. This student took 33 seconds and had no errors. Then I asked the comprehension questions. And they want you to say, what had father lost? A, books, B, shoes, C, hat, or D, keys. And they'll say the right one or the wrong one. If it's correct, they get 5 points. And what I find is interesting, some kids can focus on A, B, C, or D, while others really, if it's just one word, that's just as easy for them. But the way they're teaching us to use A, B, C, and D is to help the student find the answer. Definitely when there's these long sentences, it really helps. A, the children ate eggs for breakfast. B, Mother told the children, get ready for bed. C, father wore a blue shirt. Now, when you're working next side by side with a student, they're going to be able to read and see the questions with you. And because this is my answer key, the actual booklet doesn't have the answers in it. So the student can actually read the sentences with you. But when I put it up online, it showed the answers. So I don't, well, anyway, so this is up online. So what I did, after you find out how long it took the student, the rubric is down here. If it's, here's the highest amount of points. If the student read it in less than 34 seconds, they get 5 points. If the student had had 0 errors, they get 5 points. So this is called your basal. It's a perfect score. And then that means previous tests, 1, 2, and 3 are going to have free points. So I've had students, so then I move forward. And then I go to the next test. And again, you can always introduce it. This story is about a bird having a problem. Read the story, find out what it is, how it's solved. So again, because I'm here to show you how to grade it, you want to time it and you want to count the errors. And if they self-correct, it's not an error. If they repeat the same mistake, you only mark it wrong once. And also it shows you how many words you could help the student with. So sometimes I've helped the student with the entire 21 words. And then we really don't continue because it's really hard for them to read. So this student had 2 errors, so 3 correct. I go to the bottom. So the seconds were 66 seconds. Here, 66 seconds is 2 points. That's called my rate. That is the speed. And then the accuracy, 7 wrong. 7 wrong here were 2 points. So then you add 2 and 2. That is a fluency score of 4 points. And so I'm going to continue until the student reaches a point like this. So if they have 2 points, they're going to always continue. If they have 2 points here, they're going to always continue. But I did this intentionally so you could see how we max out. So you're going to time it. You have 129 minutes. What I always do is, well, it has 1 minute. So it says 1 minute and 69 seconds. So I always write my 1 minute and my 69 seconds equals my 129. This student had 20 errors, and comprehension, the student only got 1 right. So by getting 1 right, we have reached the ceiling. And then the 129 was 1 point. So he got a 1 point, but he had 20 errors, and 20 errors is over 19. So he gets 0 points. That's why this is a ceiling for fluency. If you're continuing with comprehension because the students are getting 3 and 4 and 3 and 4, you just won't time them. And they love that. But you let them know your comprehension is really good. So I'm going to keep letting you read, and I'm going to help you with some words. And I'm going to ask you the questions because we're going to see how high you can comprehend. And the students love that too. So this is a little differently brought back all to the front. You guys with me okay? Thumbs up? You okay? All right. So what you do is you take all this. So we started at 4. You bring that comprehension score. So here's the 5 comprehension. It's going to go, comprehension is the last one. So I have my rate and my accuracy and my 10 points. That's going to go right here. I'm starting with 10. I'm starting with test 4. And then I did 3 of them, remember? So I'm bringing all those scores up. And then these are all free points. And I like to just say free. And you put them in there, 5, you know, and then we total it down. So I total all this down to 23, all that to 22, all these go to 45, all the comprehension go to 24. And your your rate and accuracy should equal 45, which is your fluency. So now the tricky part is these are called raw scores. Now we want to get our standard score. So this is when we look at this book, and I always tab my books. So I have these in the printouts for you as well. So the first thing I do in the back of this GORT book, I'm going to look for the students. This is going to be rate. I'm going to look for the student's age and get my ruler out. So 10, 0, I'm going to make my line, and then the score was 23. So I'm going to follow down to see where 23 is. It's right there. And I'm going to underline it with my ruler. Now, what's tricky is the standard score is to the right. Be sure you put that in the right place. So here's the standard score of 8. And then over here is the percentile ranking is 25. And I'm going to put that percentile right there. Then you go to the next one. Accuracy. So I'm going to find his age, 10, 0. The score that I'm looking for is 22. So here's 22. You have a question? I know I'm moving, really just going through. So here's 22. 7 is my standard score, which I write right there. 16 is the percentile, and it goes under it. Okay. This really goes quickly once you get into the groove of it. Then we have fluency. I don't know why I have a, okay. So fluency, again, I look for the age, 10, 0. And the fluency score was 45. I see 45 right there. So my standard score is 7, and my percentile is 16. I put 7 and 16. And then the last one is comprehension. I find my age, 10, 0. I never mark in this book because students are always different. 10, 0, and my raw score is 24. So I'm looking here for 24 right here. So I have 9 is my standard score, and 37 is my percentile. 9 and 37. So now this gets into the fun part. You add what's in the box. The 7 and the 9 gives me a 16. That 16, they give you a little arrow, put it down here. Okay, that's your sum of fluency and comprehension score. Then I go, well, what does that, there's another tab, and the pages are all numbered that I sent you. So if you decide to purchase these books, you'll be able to navigate through it pretty easily. My summary is 16 points. My total was 16. So look here what 16 means. It means this student gets a percentile score of 21. So I'm going to put this in the circle below. And then an oral reading quotient of 88. This is my oral reading quotient of 88. Okay. So then I flip to another page that I've tabbed. And I want to see what 88 is. It's below average. So I'll write below average on my test. Okay. So then the last thing we're going to do on this is complete these other circles. These other lines. We want to complete the age equivalent and the grade equivalent, which really comes in handy for the IEPs. So in the back, this is how we look for that. Now, again, we're looking at the raw scores, and we have an A and we have a B. So let me show you something. So here we're going to look again at the raw score. Where did my little ruler go? Paper. There it is. Okay, so my raw score was 23. Oh, you can't see me. Here it is. 23 for rate. And here, the first column is rate. So I'm going to look for 23. This little guy is equivalent to 8 years, 9 months, which is what I write here. 8 years, 9 months. You could put a little dot. And then over here, it's grade equivalent of 3.7, which is 3 years and 7 months. That's pretty easy, right? So then the second raw score is 22 for accuracy. Go on down to accuracy. It's the same space, same one. So it's 8.9 is his age. 3.7 is the grade. So that was interesting that just got duplicated. Then you have your fluency total, which his is 45. So I bring it down, go to 45, and my ruler goes up. Now it's going to be age equivalent of 8.6 and the grade equivalent of 3.4. 8.6 and grade equivalent of 3.4. And then the last one is comprehension, had 24. So here's my 24. Age is 9 years old, and the grade is 4th grade. So I put 9 years old, and I put 4th grade. So if this little guy is a 5th grader, and he is reading at a 4th grade level, that's something to tell the parent at the IEP or at the parent conference. What I find often is so his reading is actually 2 grade levels below, but because his cognitive wasn't average or high, he doesn't meet that eligibility requirement for dyslexia. And the reason is only 40% of the kids with dyslexia have it genetic. The other kids who can't read, it's environmental or there's something else going on. So that's how you get that score. If you've seen other testing protocol, they call it, in your master's classes, this will probably be very similar. And the other thing I wanted to point out, because we have 15 minutes here before questions, is that there's a test called the CTOP. Now, the schools really love this test. It's a phonological processing test. This would take another, class to show you, but it's very cool because it's got a lot of different tests and it actually comes with digital music. So it's nice if the person's with you so that they could navigate through the music and they repeat what they hear and you grade it. And it's a matter of, are they hearing the right sounds? Are they blending? Are they substituting correctly? And that's the phonological awareness. The other thing I wanted to show you was some of the scores, okay, of kids I've tutored. So we just finished with our intervention. Sorry, you didn't see that name. With our intervention, we have 25 sessions that are offered to students. And look at this student. So this is a pre-test. So she scored way up here in her cognitive, which was good. Let us know her standard score was 109. And then so this is a protocol. And then her reading was poor. So this student is a second grader. And look at the grade equivalent. Less than 1. 1. Less than 1. But the comprehension was at grade level for her. So this, because she had that intelligent level and she needs help, we were able to tutor her with the grant. So what I wanted to show you was after 25 sessions, she's still high. This doesn't change a whole lot unless they're really learning a lot of new vocabulary. But I want to show you her reading level. Now she's at the average reading level. Look at this, 3.7. And we use music with her. And part of why our program is so different, the music is helping the kids make some gains that are just unprecedented. So I want to show you, I want to compare. This was her pre-test. She was comprehending at a 2.7. Only 25 sessions later, she's at a 3.7, 3 years. So she gained a whole year in only 25 sessions. And that's because we use music and we have dynamic tutors. And they're both on this webinar. So the other things I wanted to show you, let me just show you some of the other scores that I had. So this student, look how high she scored here. She is an 8-year-old, but she could not read at all. She could not even take the GORT test, even at the easiest. It scared her. Kids want to start crying, and she's a 3rd grader. So anyway, she's going to be in our program. This little student, 7 years old, was way down here. Second language learner. This little student was a 9-year-old, scored way down here. So if I had known, I wouldn't have done the additional tests because it took a lot of time and they weren't going to be in the program anyway. So here's another one I tested. This school needs some help, right? Age 10, 4 years old, so low vocabulary. Here's a 9-year-old, way down here. So these were some second language learners. Here is some of the examples of how they don't know the sounds. And some students, I had them write 2 sentences. So now we have a student who's scoring a little bit higher, but still, she's still at a 94. And I'm thinking, okay, well, she might be good for our program. Let's see how her reading was. Look at her reading. Above average. So for some reason, she read above average. And so she doesn't have that discrepancy. There's not even a gap for her to be in our program. And why she was referred to me, I'm not really sure. So here's another little student, 96. And her reading score was below average. So her grade equivalent was 5 years old, or 5th grade, sorry. And this grade is, she's a grade 3. This is what I'm looking for, the reading score. Her comprehension was good, but her reading fluency was 1st grade level. That's why she is below average. Even though her comprehension is high, it balanced it out a little bit more to make her below average, but she is actually far below average with her reading. So she is in our program. Another student only got a 91. but look at the reading was very poor. So while this student is a grade 5, oops, grade 5, the reading was at the first grade level. So this, we're letting this little gal be in our program too, because she is, at least she's in this range. Okay, so you want to look for students in here. And that's all I'm going to show you. So I hope that was helpful. Let me stop my document camera. And I wonder, do you have any questions? Did a lot of this line up with what you've been trained in and bring clarification? Do you think it'll help you with your assessments now?
I already do the GORT, and the psych does the other two tests that you mentioned.
Okay.
So like we already are doing the testing, but I'm just curious if I wanted to do it in my private practice. Did you buy that assessment? Were you able to buy it just as an individual?
Yes, they have a real strict screening. I needed to show that I had my master's in special ed, and I actually had to show them my my coursework that was about screening and testing for students.
Mm-hmm.
That I took some assessment classes. So they're very strict with how you can purchase it. But then you are eligible, like you're like an A, B, or C level.
Okay.
So I had everything it needed to be the A level. But if you have a B level of requirements, they may still sell it to you. I don't know. But Pro Ed is where I went to.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions, Sandy?
No.
Okay, so many people signed up, and unfortunately things came up and some of them emailed me that they couldn't make it. All righty. Do you think a course like this would be helpful to continue?
Yes.